They say distance can strengthen love. But sometimes, distance only creates room for secrets. Tonight's confession is one of betrayal, fear, sacrifice, and a truth that almost destroyed a family. This is a story of a marriage stretched across borders. A woman trapped between poverty and survival. And a DNA test that changed everything. If you're listening to this late at night, alone with your thoughts, this story might stay with you longer than you expect. Because this isn't just about infidelity. It's about desperation. It's about fear. And it's about the unbearable weight of a lie carried for years. Samuel lived in the UK. He had moved there over a decade ago, chasing a better life, better money, and a future he couldn't build back home. Like many immigrants, he promised himself it was temporary. "I'll work for a few years," he told his wife, Esther. "I'll send money. Then I'll come back for you." But years passed. 1 year turned into 2. 2 into 5. 5 into 10. And still, Samuel stayed in the UK. Esther remained back home, raising their children alone, living in a small rented apartment in a crowded neighborhood where privacy didn't exist and money was always short. They were married. Legally. Spiritually. Socially. But they lived like strangers bound by obligation. Samuel came home only once a year. 1 visit. 1 week. 1 obligation. Every year, like clockwork. The visits followed the same routine. Samuel would arrive. Family members would celebrate. Neighbors would whisper. And within days, Esther would become pregnant. It happened twice. First, a boy, Daniel. Then, for years later, a girl, Glory. People joked about it. Some laughed. Some admired it. "Samuel doesn't waste time," they said. But Esther never laughed. Because the truth was complicated. Esther came from poverty. The kind of poverty that doesn't just mean lack of money, but lack of choices. She had grown up watching her mother beg relatives for food. She had dropped out of school early. Marriage to Samuel was supposed to be her escape. But when he left for the UK, she was left behind with promises and monthly transfers that barely covered rent, food, and school fees. Loneliness became her shadow. Nights were the worst. The silence. The unanswered calls. The feeling of being married, yet alone. Years ago, when Daniel was still a baby, Esther met someone. He was kind. He was present. And most dangerously, he listened. She told herself it was harmless. She told herself she deserved comfort. And one night, comfort turned into a mistake. A mistake that would later become a living, breathing child. When Esther discovered she was pregnant with Glory, her world collapsed. She counted dates. She did the math. Samuel hadn't been home. She cried for days. She considered ending the pregnancy. But fear, religion, and guilt stopped her. She told herself something dangerous. "I will never be caught." Samuel returned months later. The child was born into a marriage that wasn't biologically hers. And Esther buried the truth deep inside her chest. She loved Glory fiercely. But every time she looked at her daughter's face, fear stared back. This year was different. Samuel didn't just come home. He came with plans. "I want to bring you and the children to the UK," he said. Esther froze. This was supposed to be good news. This was what she had prayed for. But then Samuel added something that made her heart stop. "Before we start the visa process," he said calmly, "I want to do DNA tests for the children." Silence. Her ears rang. Her hands shook. Samuel explained it logically. "Immigration is strict," he said. "I need proof they're mine." But Esther heard something else. Exposure. Destruction. Loss. That night, Esther didn't sleep. She stared at the ceiling, replaying every lie she had ever told. If the truth came out, Samuel would leave her. She would lose financial support. She would be shamed publicly. Her children would suffer. And worse, she knew Samuel. He was proud. He was strict. He believed deeply in loyalty. He would never forgive this. Esther tried everything. She cried. She begged. She delayed. She told Samuel the children were scared. She said the tests weren't necessary. She accused him of mistrust. Samuel grew suspicious. "Why are you so afraid?" he asked. She had no answer. Her fear only confirmed his doubts. Eventually, there was no escape. They went to the lab. Esther's hands trembled as the samples were taken. Daniel smiled, innocent and unaware. Amara clung to her mother's dress. Esther felt like she was walking her daughter toward judgment. The results would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks of hell. Those 2 weeks were torture. Esther lost weight. She barely ate. She prayed endlessly. She imagined every possible outcome. Samuel leaving. Samuel shouting. Samuel taking Daniel and abandoning Glory. Her worst fear wasn't divorce. It was watching her children suffer for her mistake. The day came. Samuel opened the envelope alone. He didn't say a word at first. Then he looked up. Daniel was his son. Glory was not. The room felt like it collapsed. Esther fell to her knees. She confessed everything. The loneliness. The poverty. The fear. She begged. "I did it to survive," she cried. "I never stopped loving you." Samuel didn't shout. Which hurt more? Samuel felt betrayed. Not just as a husband, but as a man who had worked tirelessly to provide. Years of sacrifice. Years of trust. All shattered by one secret. He looked at Glory. She smiled at him. She didn't know her world was falling apart. Samuel didn't decide immediately. He spent days alone. When he returned, he said something no one expected. "I will not abandon the children," he said. "But this marriage will never be the same." He agreed to continue supporting both children. But trust? Trust was gone. The dream of a united family in the UK died that day. Esther remained back home. The children stayed with her. Samuel returned to the UK, alone. Their marriage survived legally, but emotionally, it was broken. Sometimes, survival choices cost more than we expect. This story teaches us something painful but real. Secrets grow heavier with time. Loneliness can push good people into terrible decisions. And lies told for survival often destroy the very future we're trying to protect. Honesty may hurt early, but deception destroys completely. If this story touched you, if it made you reflect, if it broke your heart even a little, please subscribe to the channel, Midnight Confessions. Because some stories are too heavy to carry alone, and some confessions are only told after midnight. Good night.